Okay, hello. Welcome to episode 2 of Cycling Across Japan. Let's pick up where we left off. I was at a stranger's house. I had a TV crew with me, and somehow this guy let me, the TV crew, in. We cooked dinner, had a great time, and I told him the next day where I was going to cycle to a place called, oh my gosh, I cannot remember the place. It was over the Hakone Pass from Odawara, about 70 kilometers south. Um, I think to Fuji Shi, Fuji City, Fuji Town. Lovely view of Mount Fuji, as you would expect. Now, this day was supposed to be going around this peninsula. Super easy, super nice, super relaxed vibe. And this guy says, no. Let's take an adventurous route, the direct route, and go across what's called the Hakone Pass. About 800 meters of elevation to the peak of this mountain pass. 90 kilometers for the whole cycle. 30 kilometers was just the uphill, which was the first 30 kilometers, and it was 43 degrees. Bright sunny for the start of the day. So that sets the tone. We wake up, get about 5-10 minutes to myself before I wake up, and the TV crew is there. Bam. They're like, all right, let's film. Let's see you guys getting ready, having breakfast and all this. We're chatting, we're relaxing, we're getting ready, packing the bike. He's gonna cycle with me, so he's choosing a bicycle as well. Then, boom, on the road, early, bright in the morning. We're cycling. We decide to stop for a Starbucks for breakfast. We're just chilling at the Starbucks, enjoying the worst matcha available in Japan. I mean, no hate for Starbucks, except, well, there is hate for Starbucks, boycott, whatever. But it was funny. They're one of the only places that serve vegan food in Japan is Starbucks. You can count on them to have this weird curry wrap or something. Something totally bizarre, of course, as you get in Japan with the food. So it started off nice, and then it was a insane challenge. It was like steep mountain pass. I remember going up and up and up, out of breath, sweating. This bicycle only had 5 working gears, so I was, with all the weight on the bicycle, trying to push my body down. I should have had the weight on a backpack so that I had more power going through the pedals, or a higher gear. It was really incredibly difficult, especially in the heat. I was stopping all the time, drinking like liters and liters of water. It probably took us like 3 hours, maybe more, maybe 4 hours to get to the top of a 30-kilometer cycle. That shows kind of just how slow I was going, because Yasuharu was was like a seasoned cyclist. He would do this pass all the time, and he was like steaming ahead of me, and then he would kind of stop a little before me, and then we did have to walk a little bit of the pass because it was too hard to get going with all the weight on the bikes. The TV crew was a little bit worried for me. It was quite funny. They were trying to get these lovely shots of me cycling uphill, and they would be ready to go, like driving in front of us, like go, and we'd be cycling up as hard as you could, because you're trying to look good for the TV crew, and then that was it, cooked. It wasn't happening. They would get like a few seconds of footage, and that's what they have. That's what they used. But it was great. The feeling of accomplishment at the top, it was the same as climbing a mountain. It was like, boom, let's get some downhill. Let's cycle the 60 kilometers left. So we go about 20 kilometers downhill, enjoying these incredible roads that were very rarely driven. A little bit overgrown, tree cover on top. The mood was just unbelievable because we had some shade, some downhill, some fun. And then I'm reading my notes here. Yeah, then we got a monsoon. It was theatrical. It was thunderstorms rolling in. The rain started and did not stop. It was maybe 20 degrees cooler purely because of the amount of rain. It was better water pressure than being in some showers. I wrote down 90 millimeters of rain an hour. It was a pure monsoon, thunder and lightning going everywhere. The crew were very worried for me. Yasuharu was worried for his phone because he was checking his directions to make sure we were going in the right spot. Because my phone had a waterproof cover on it, but if I took it out, it would break because it has a crack on the screen. And his phone actually broke after this day because it got so wet and it wouldn't dry out. There was no point in wearing a poncho, no point in wearing a raincoat, anything. I was soaked to the bone and almost enjoying it. It was like this manic, crazy high. I had the microphone attached, which was waterproof, and the camera crew kind of stopped and heard because they heard me laughing, and they were like, are you okay? Like, are you actually like kind of insane or like what? And I was just like, I just love it. I love the being in the elements, but because it was so warm, it was fine. It was just rain. The tires were like cycling through a river. We had to stop for ramen, and I gave them my passport. It's just that one thing wouldn't get wet at least, because I was very adamant about carrying all my own stuff. But I figured if I'm carrying an extra camera for them, it balances out if they carry my passport, because I didn't want it to be an assisted trip. And we were stopping for ramen, we were pushing, and my knee was in so much agony after this uphill. It was the hardest day probably of cycling I've ever done in my life. We eventually get to the coast, so we've gone from this town over the mountain pass to skip cycling around a peninsula. Got back down to the coast, maybe 30 kilometers left. We've cycled up in 40 degrees, down through a monsoon, had to stop for extra lights on my bike because it wasn't dark, but like it was so cloud covered that it felt like it was nighttime almost. And then we made it to the coast. I had to stop for like 30 minutes at least to kind of recharge my batteries, get some food, get some drinks, get everything I could. And then it was like smooth sailing along the coast, but just pumping out the kilometers with the luggage after tiring day. It was hard. And the craziest thing happened. But we were talking about going to an onsen. So Yasuharu was like, I know this onsen, it's in Fuji Shi. We should go. Best way to wind down after a cycle. I'm all for it. It was going to be my first time in an onsen. TV crew kind of hear us talking about this, call up the onsen, ask for permission to film. So we end the day, I check into my hostel, I get like 10-15 minutes to myself to kind of get out of my literally sopping, drenching wet clothes and get changed into, don't even know what other clothes I have, but I got changed into something. And then, boom, we're going to the onsen with the TV crew with us. So we rock up, I don't have to do much of the talking, but then butt naked, me and Yasuhara with a camera guy go into the onsen. And he's showing me how to use the Japanese onsen and stuff, so I'm just there butt naked on Japanese national TV. Obviously they censor it because it's Japan, it's all pixelated, but it's incredible, it's hilarious. We just relax. The guy interviews me when I'm in the onsen. He's like, how does it feel? Like, do you like it? Do you enjoy the saunas? Do you enjoy everything? And I was just there dead. I was like in the onsen, like, bro, what do you mean? Do I like this? This is heaven right now. Just like, the only thing I wish for is that there wasn't a camera crew with me and that I could just sit down and enjoy it. I almost fell asleep. We stayed there until it closed, and then got back and had just, chill, just a few minutes to myself, slept, and the next day was cycling to Shizuoka. So it was supposed to be easy 60 kilometers flat along the coast, and I didn't know it, but it turned into another challenge just because of the heat. The sun, again, it was about 40 degrees, 90, 100% humidity because right next to the coast. We cycle like halfway, 30 kilometers, nice and easy. I started eating this watermelon because fruit is sometimes hard to come by or expensive or a bit of a luxury in Japan. And the camera crew again is just like thinking I'm this insane person because I was eating the rind and everything. I was just like, it was thin, it was soft. I was just like needing. I was so hungry to eat like everything possible. And they thought it was crazy. But then we stopped at this random Ferris wheel, um, and it was like a little theme park on the coast type of thing. And the camera crew was like, "Yeah, let's go. And I'm just there like, sure, well, let's buy a ticket, whatever. And then it's like, no, you get him for free with the camera crew. So the camera crew like walks me up. We go on this Ferris wheel, and I'm just getting interviewed in this Ferris wheel, like pure ADHD, like looking around, like, oh, this view is like crazy. This is so fun, so cool. Um, and the camera crew is like, yeah, isn't it like amazing? It's fun, whatever. And how did you think of whatever? Um, and then the day just kept going. Because like I said, it's supposed to be an easy day, but after another like 10 kilometers, there is the temple of Ieyasu. So Tokugawa Ieyasu, quick history lesson, is the first emperor of Japan. He like of the whole island, to unite the whole island and end a war at the Battle of Osaka Castle. And his burial place is in middle of nowhere, like 20 kilometers or so from Shizuoka town or Shizuoka city. There's like more people than the whole of Ireland in there, probably. But I'm like, all right, let's do a quick visit for the shrine. Of course, they call again and get permission to film in there, and then I cycle there, and I'm like relaxed. Oh my god, this shrine is at the top of a fucking mountain again, because Japan, 1,200 stairs in the 40-degree heat and the sunshine beating down on you. And the camera crew got too hot. They were following me up and trying to interview me, and I was going because I'm fairly fit and I climb mountains all the time, and they were just like, stop, 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 and like, oh my god. And then we got to the top, and I did like almost this advertisement for this Japanese ripoff of Coca-Cola, which was like the best cola I've ever had in my life. I wish I remember the name of it, but I'll have it next time I go back there. And then we spent the better part of an hour just looking there. And for me, I was looking at the tantos, katanas, and wakizashis, especially that the emperor had, because they were his. And you don't get to see those in the other museums because you see, from all emperors from everything. But this was all just his, and it was just incredibly special. There was no international tourists there, just Japanese. It's like a real hidden gem, and the armor was just incredible. The craftsmanship. I'm sure everybody says this, but as somebody who makes the occasional knife and sword, it was easier to appreciate. Um, but yeah, I looked at swords and knives for an hour and nerded out and looked at the temple and was was happy. Uh, and then eventually I arrived to Shizuoka at a guest house called Hitoyado. And I just rested for the evening. And I'll leave that at this for this episode. So, yeah, naked on Japanese TV. Got to look at some cool swords and uh, got to climb a temple and give all the TV crew heat exhaustion that they weren't prepared for. So that's this episode. Thanks for watching.